Hello, and welcome to a special edition of Getting to Know Mad Mikey, the Halloween edition. Mad Mikey Gaming.
G'day all you spooked out gamers out there, Mad Mikey coming out to you with another Monday, which means that you're going to get to know a bit more about me. I'm Mad Mikey and this is my show. What's been going on this week, guys? Not much. Been playing a bit of Mafia, and I don't know. Actually had a really good conversation with my cousin on Saturday, and like we were talking, because he was playing it, I was playing it. I'm like, do you like Mafia? I'm like, it's alright. The story is there, don't get me wrong. I love the story of the game. It's a really good redemption story, blah blah blah. But it's open world for the sake of being open world. There's nothing to do in that world. That is not a living, breathing world like your GTAs and whatnot. So I've just unlocked all the guys. So I've got the game. We're starting the big Marcano hunt down, and I have to go from one side of the bloody map to the other to do a drug run or whatever, shit like that. And it's too much. Like, there's no fast travel. So a lot of the reviews, when I heard that in the reviews, I'm like, that's awesome. Doesn't matter. I love the RPG element of having to drive around, but they took away the speedometer where you could reduce your speed so the cops don't pick you up, but the cops look at you, so I don't get what they were doing with this game. But I'm really enjoying the story, so I'm just really trying to plow through it at the moment. My friend Steve came over on Friday night, and we had quite a few beverages and a barbecue because it was a beautiful day. And he bought me a Nintendo. He actually got it for my birthday, so thank you very much, Steve. He also gave me, which was beyond generous, Excitebike on there. So he actually bought a new pin connector for it and everything, because he couldn't, I think he was having trouble getting things to work, or he knew of this previous issue because he actually had two of them. So he was giving me his spare one. You should have seen us with just two drunk idiots on the Friday night. We're trying to get it to work, so the lights are flashing, so it's not working. We're just playing around with it and things like that. And then we got it going, and it actually started like, yes! So we started playing, we played about 4 or 5 courses, and then just the pixelation on the screen started happening, so we turned it off. And we haven't been able to get it going since. And then another collector friend of mine from work, he actually said, look, try it this way. So I've just been actually trying it without any luck. But yeah, look, the last week, that's pretty much it in terms of gameplay. Like, I've been just really getting into a couple of the horror games, and we'll actually get to that a bit later. Like, I've actually been really inspired this last week. I've actually, at work, we were doing this training for phone call taking, which, mate, I've got so many numerous awards from work for my phone call manner and whatnot that I was like, this is just going to be an absolute bore. But they actually did this TED talk about conversations and 10 ways how to have a conversation. And that just blew my mind. Like, I watched this, I'll actually link it in the description. I've actually sort of shared it on my personal Facebook page and one of my groups. And it's actually really inspirational stuff, and it just sort of says how a lot of people talk these days, but not a lot of people listen. But I won't bore you with any more of that stuff. But yeah, definitely I'll give you guys a link below. And what I just sort of wanted to talk about today was what my top 5 horror games are. Just obviously keeping in the tradition of Halloween, All Hallow Eve. At number 5, I have the Parasite Eve series. Now, this was a game that came out on the PlayStation 1 a very long time ago. Not a lot of people consider this a horror game, but for me, it is a survival horror game. There's really weird shit that happened. Like many games of the generation, they tried and turned it into an action game. So when they actually brought out Parasite Eve Rebirth, I think it was called on the PSP, it was very action orientated with all the parasites sort of taking over. And really sort of, I think that was the nail in the coffin. I mean, they had Yvonne Strahovski, who is an Australian actress as the voice, and she did a really good job on it, but it just wasn't true to its roots, and that is a bit of a pity. And at number 4 we have the Dead Space series. Not so much number 2. I mean, number 2 was pretty friggin' scary as it was. But Dead Space is a series, I mean, again, another series that starts off in your sort of roots of just some pure survival horror, like walking down corridors and not knowing what's around the corner, or seeing a dead body on the floor and thinking, is that going to jump up if I walk past it? Just the screams and the eerie songs that they put in these games, they're really, really atmospheric. So you really want to turn the lights down dark and just be there with your own wits. At number 3, we have, this might be a bit of a surprise. So let us know down below if you agree with this, if you don't, if you think there's better. Alan Wake. Alan Wake is one of my favourite games of actual all time. Not to, like, number 2 and 3 are probably up higher, but Alan Wake is a spectacular game. The only thing that it suffers from is the collectibles. You've got all those collectibles in the game where you've got to find the sheets of paper, and I really think it takes you out of the atmosphere. Like a lot of games with collectibles, it just takes you away. So you get past the section and you're like, okay, now I'm going to run back and I'm going to see if I can find any pages of my story. But I love the setting, everything that there is about Alan Wake. I dream of bloody living in like Crystal Fall or whatever it is, the setting of where he goes. It was very unfortunate that game came out the same day as Red Dead Redemption originally. And also on that day, another one of my favourite franchises of all time had a game release, which was The Prince of Persia: The Forgotten Sands, which is a bit of a forgotten game. It's actually a really good game. I do recommend you check it out. And at number 2, we have Silent Hill. Now, Silent Hill is a fucked up game. It's weird. It has always stayed true to its roots. I don't care what you say about Homecoming or Downpour. They have always put out fantastic games. They've always had multiple endings. They've tried to change it up every time with success. Silent Hill is and obviously Silent Hills got cancelled, and that's probably going to be the end of the Silent Hill franchise, which I don't want, but the company Konami has just ruined their whole video game business. They're making money elsewhere. They think that probably games is for kids now, to be honest, like sort of Japanese companies do sort of tend to stick to. And it's probably without any surprise, Resident Evil is the number 1. I've played this game since it came out on the PlayStation. There's a lot of stories that I can tell you about the Resident Evil series. I actually own them all along with the Silent Hill series. But I've only ever finished 5 and 6, and rumour has it that I finished with a relative once, the actual first one on the PlayStation 1, but we got very drunk that night. So he seems to remember, I didn't remember. That was all she wrote on that one. So guys, I want to know what your favourite horror games are. Just to obviously keep inside of Halloween. Also, I did have a question from a follower, which is my brother-in-law. God bless him. And what Louis asks is, another great episode, Mike, but I have a question for you and your subscribers. Do you find collecting CD, DVD, disc-based games rewarding compared to the old school games that are found on the cartridge format? For me, being a generation older than you, CDs feel quite sterile and less attractive to collect. Maybe this has to do with the fact that games of my youth came in a cartridge, diskette, cassette format. Also, I feel PS1, PS2 and original Xbox games have not aged that well. Again, this may be a generalization thing, a generational thing, but games on older consoles appear to feel a whole lot better. Louis, I 100% agree with you. The thing is that with your older games, like the 8-bit, the 16-bit, so your Super Nintendo, your Nintendo games, they can still look the way that they were originally made and still look pretty. I think with your disc-based consoles, like your PlayStation 1, your PlayStation 2, most definitely, I don't agree with the original Xbox because original Xbox, if you get an actual cable that outputs component, the games actually still hold up to this day. I promise you, if you try that, you will see a big difference. The only problem is you need a chipped Xbox to be able to get that output. But the problem with the PlayStation 1 and the PlayStation 2, PlayStation 2 you can actually put component cables on, but the image clarity isn't there. There's a big difference between image sharpness and clarity. Adam Koralik did a really good video on explaining a lot of these different things. One of the other ones that I do think sort of hold up to is the GameCube. Even on your normal AV settings, you can still play that and it still looks beautiful. But in terms of with cartridge and disc space, yes, discs are terrible. They scratch, they can break easily, they can deteriorate. Like, let's face it, the way that discs are cheap. That's why gamers use them these days. Whereas with your cartridges, I think you find that they last a lot longer. Obviously, you've got pins and issues with the connectors and things like that. So I really think that there is a flaw to them all. But if you're talking about old school games, like I know that you're into like your Commodore 64, like the box art and just how they sort of it was more like a romance back then. That cover art, like it was probably had nothing to do with the game, but that is what sold you the game. Whereas these days, it's very less inspired. It's just the same picture. Like you'll see the same picture of people like this with swords, with guns, with knives. You'll see a band of people and things like that. So, in terms of collectible, and it's not a route that I'm going down because the cartridges the older systems are too unreliable. That's just the nuts and the bolts of it. Whilst I've got down to a Super Nintendo, and now obviously I've got the Nintendo, as I said, these things are really hard and really iffy to play with. And that's by and part just to them being old. But I do understand what you're saying. But to answer your question, I would prefer cartridges. They're just so much better. They look better, they feel premium, whereas discs, they're flimsy, they can fly around and all that. But I am actually interested to know amongst my collecting buddies, what do you think? Cartridges are more expensive, discs are not. That's the end all be all of how it is. And that's why I'm really trying hard with my Xbox original collection to build up. But guys, that's it for this week. I probably spoke your ears off a bit. Holler off down in the comments if you like it. Be like Buddy Christ and give us a thumbs up. But I'll be back with tomorrow with the Gaming Thought news on Tuesday and Thursday. There won't be a shit I'll probably never play this week. I'll be at PAX. Hopefully I'll get some really awesome footage for you guys, as well as some interviews with some cosplayers. I know a couple of the guys that have featured on the show are going to be there. So I'll try and catch up with them and we'll have some fun with that. So guys, have a great day and I'll see you tomorrow.